Ruth Van Lillian, your sabbatical minister, serving while Reverend Julie Conradi is away for a few more weeks. For those in the room, please take a look at your contact card and fill it out on both sides. You can place it in the offering basket later or hand it to an usher as you leave. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. The prelude prepares us for worship.
As we light our chalice, let us find encouragement in the words of Dr. William Barber, Reverend Dr. William Barber. You must always believe the redemption of your enemy is possible. And the words of Bell Hooks. Once you do away with the idea of people as fixed, static entities, then you see that people can change, and there is hope. Sorry, I didn't say, as you're willing and able, please rise for the chalice lighting, but as you're willing and able, please rise to greet those around you in the spirit of inclusivity and welcome, and especially those you may not know. Please greet them. Those of you online, if our Wi-Fi is back on and you can hear me, greet one another in the chat.
If we could return to our seats and get a gray hymnal. And there are more by the entrance. Anybody who managed to come in and miss the hymnals. Let's turn to 131, Love Will Guide Us. And we'll sing all verses. If you are, Wanzetta thinks we should stand. Good idea. Let's, as you are able, please stand. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Please be seated.
Good morning. I'm Viana, part of the Justice Committee, and today we have a guest speaker, wherever she, I'm not sure where she went, to give us some information is Marva Douglas from the Action Coalition of Transit. Marva?
Good morning. I'm going to read this as quickly as I can for 1 minute. 73 years ago in 1952, our state legislature passed a law that puts all gasoline tax dollars into bridges and highways only. That law remains in effect today. There is no funding from the state for public transportation. Children ride yellow school buses throughout their time in school, but when they graduate high school, there is no public transportation available for them to look for jobs, attend local colleges, or just plain get around in their communities. That's because all of the gasoline tax dollars paid by those yellow school buses go towards bridges and highways only. In 2018, the state legislature passed the Alabama Public Transportation Trust Fund bill, but has not been able to find funds to put in it. However, in the past 2 legislative sessions, bills were proposed that would collect $5 on car tags purchased in the state, but those bills never got out of committees. Hopefully, that bill will be proposed in the upcoming legislative session, and we will get a chance to vote on its passage. It would then fill the empty Transportation Trust Fund and help future high school graduates and possibly all citizens get robust public transportation. Thank you.
My name is Phil Vanderkamp, and I am the Vice President of your Board of Trustees. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change our world for the better. If this is your first time with us, please pass the plate. We are just glad you are with us here today. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity and equality for all. Today, we are sharing our plate with TAKE, Transgender Advocates Knowledge Empowerment, that focus on discrimination in the workplace, housing advocacy, support for sex workers, providing trans-friendly services, and working to eliminate many other barriers that trans women of color face. We appreciate your donations and accept the forms of payment found in your order of service. Thank you for your generous support, for your support of our church, for our Share the Plate recipients. May we give in peace, may we give in love, and may we give in hope.
Now is the time in our community when we share what we carry with us on this day: joy, sorrow, often both. For those of you online, please share yours in our online chat, and remember to hold others by placing parentheses around their name. For those of you in person today, you are invited to come forward and drop a stone in honor or in memory of what is on your heart today. We invite everyone to respect each other's experience during this meditative time and maintain a quiet reverence. Please come forward. Today we celebrate the recovery of Dick Segretto, who's with us today. Right. And our member Peter Walsh is home from the hospital, so we're pleased for him as well. Today we lift up the people of Gaza and their continued suffering. And we also lift up the Israeli hostages and their family and friends who continue to wait and wait. And we lift up the people of Ukraine in this time of suffering and uncertainty as we all watch to see what will happen. May we keep one another in our hearts, in our minds, in the spirit of community and love. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation, followed by a moment of silence, and hear these words of the great religious educator, Sophia Lyon-Fahs. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. Amen, and blessed be. Will the children please come forward?
Good morning. Oh, we're going to sit in the chairs today. We're feeling fancy, apparently. So, the floor is very slippery this morning. So hopefully I don't fall down, because that would be embarrassing. So we'll see how this goes. I promise not to do any like crazy dance moves. It should be good. So you are doing some crazy dance moves, Pax. Be careful. Make sure you don't hit any of your friends, because you're about to hit some of your friends. Yep, no, that way. So today, I want to tell a story about something that's a little bit hard, but it's also something that's really important. It's a story about what happens when we respond to meanness, not with meanness, but with love and kindness. Sometimes that's really hard to do. So this is a story about Alex and Jordan. Alex loved school. They loved learning new things, they loved making art, and especially they loved lunchtime. Who loves lunchtime? Recess is pretty fun, but lunchtime is a close second for me. Yeah. So every day, Alex would open up their bright red lunchbox and find something special. A sandwich, a piece of fruit, a treat, and sometimes, best of all, a tiny folded note from their grown-up. And the notes would say things like, "You are brave. You are enough. You are so very loved." And Alex would read the note, smile, tuck it into the lid of their lunchbox, and take it home. But someone else noticed Alex's lunchbox for a while. That someone was Jordan. Jordan was a student in the same grade, but people often said that Jordan had a bad attitude. No one here has a bad attitude, right? We all have good attitudes. Owen says, except he has a bad attitude. You never have a bad attitude for me, Owen. You have a good attitude. Sometimes I do too, Owen. But they didn't smile very much. And they didn't sit with anyone at lunch. And sometimes they were kind of mean. Jordan had noticed Alex's lunchbox for a while, and one day, when Alex was walking to their table, Jordan bumped into them. Really hard. And Alex's apple rolled off onto the floor, and Jordan just walked away. And so Alex sat down with their bruised apple and felt mad and a little bit sad. and a little bit confused. Why did Jordan do that, they wondered. I didn't do anything to them. That night, Alex told their grown-up what had happened. They expected to hear something like, just step away from them, or next time, tell a teacher. But instead, their grown-up paused and said, sweetie, sometimes people act mean because they're hurting inside. That doesn't make it okay, but it helps to understand. What do you think would happen if you tried something different tomorrow? What if you tried kindness? Alex wrinkled their nose. Kindness? To the kid that knocked over my apple? Psh. But they couldn't stop thinking about it. Kill people with kindness. Maybe not kill them. Maybe just be extra kind. But so the next day, Alex packed their lunch, and they added one extra cookie, just in case. At lunchtime, Jordan walked in by again, and Alex's heart beat just a little bit faster. They were a little nervous. But instead of turning away, Alex moved over on the bench and said, hey, do you want to sit next to me? And Jordan stopped in their tracks. Why? They said, frowning. I don't know. I just thought you might want to. I brought extra today. And Alex held up the cookie. Jordan didn't say anything, but slowly, they sat down next to Alex. The two of them ate in silence for a while, and then Jordan said, my little brother likes those cookies. Alex smiled and said, me too. That was really all they said that day. But the next day, Jordan sat with Alex again, and the day after that, and the day after that. And little by little, they talked more. Jordan told Alex things that were really tough at home. Some days there wasn't enough food to eat at their house, and some days no one was there to help them pack their lunch in the morning. And some days they felt like the whole world had forgotten about them. And Alex listened and shared and kept bringing 2 cookies. As the weeks passed, something amazing happened. Jordan stopped pushing kids in the hallway. They started to smile a little more. They even helped another kid pick up their books when they dropped them. And then one day, Jordan showed up with their very own lunchbox. It was blue and had a little drawing on it, and inside was a sandwich and a note. The note said, "You are stronger than you know." Jordan didn't say where the note came from, but Alex had a good guess. Here's the truth. Kindness doesn't always work right away. And sometimes when someone is acting like a bully, it's important to keep yourself safe and to ask for help. But sometimes kindness is the one thing that reaches someone's heart when nothing else can. Alex didn't become friends with Jordan because they ignored the bad behavior. They became friends because they saw the person underneath the behavior. And they chose to respond with love instead of anger. And in our Unitarian Universalist faith, we believe that every person has worth and dignity, even when they don't act like it. And love is more powerful than hate, and that we are called to create a world where everyone belongs, everyone is fed, and everyone is loved. So the next time you see someone acting out at school, or maybe here at church, or anywhere, ask yourself, what might they be carrying that I can't see? What would love do here? And how can I be a part of that healing? And remember, we said this last week, remember, we are Unitarian Universalists. We have open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. All right, my friends, can you grown-ups sing us downstairs? Each person is one.
Hear these words, held sacred by many. First, from the Quran. It may be that God will ordain love between you and those whom you love as enemies, for God has power over all things, and God is oft forgiving, most merciful. And from the Hindu Uttarakhanda in the great epic of Ramayana, a superior being does not render evil for evil. One should never harm the wicked or the good or even criminals meriting death. A noble soul will ever exercise compassion even toward those who enjoy hurting others or those of cruel deeds, for who is without fault? Do you have any enemies? It is a question largely relegated to murder mysteries, police dramas, and these days, politics. We Unitarian Universalists are highly evolved people who take pride in our intellectual ability, our moral compass, our social status. We don't use this language to describe people with whom we interact. We might talk about persons being reserved or distant, or perhaps we don't really get along with certain ones who can be difficult. We don't talk much about enemies, do we? So, do you have enemies? The Buddha is reported to have said, "Silence the angry man with love. Silence the ill-natured man with kindness. Silence the miser with generosity and the liar with truth." And the ancient Jewish text of Proverbs exhorts the people to rejoice not when your enemy falls. Let not your heart be glad when they stumble. And if your enemy is hungry, give them bread to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. What if we think in these terms? An enemy is someone who intentionally harms or attempts to harm me or someone I care about. In such context, we might admit that we have had enemies and that we may now have enemies somewhere in our lives. So do you have enemies? And who are they and who were they? There were certainly bullies that I encountered in school. Paul was a small guy with a big mouth, and he loved to make fun of me. We were 14, high school freshmen, and it seemed like Paul was always looking for an opening, always waiting to find a way to embarrass me. One day as history class let out, he pushed past me hard, and I lost my balance and fell on my face while my books went flying right in front of the whole class. Paul stopped to admire his work and laughed loudly. "Gee, Ruth, you are so fat and clumsy." I heard giggles as I got to my feet and turned to face him. I felt humiliated, and I had reached my boiling point. "Paul, how old are you?" I used to get called fat on the playground by the little kids. What a brilliant insult. How long did you work on that one? "You are so stupid and immature. Grow up, you little jerk." Everyone in the hall laughed, but now they were laughing at him, and his face fell. I had hit the mark, and I had hit without mercy. I picked my books up, and as we all moved on to our next classes, I saw Paul slink off alone, head down. And my moment of victorious, indignant rage began to feel less than satisfying. I saw that I had hurt him, and that did not feel very good. I did not know that Paul suffered lots of humiliation for being so small physically, and for his academic struggles. I did not know that he had a difficult home life or a history of trouble in school. I only knew him as a pest, a bully, who wasn't even very good at bullying. And I was sick of being the object of his mockery. He was in detention a lot over that school year, and the next year he didn't come back. Rumor was that his parents had been forced to move him to another school. I don't know what happened to him. We never reconciled. He was an enemy of my youth who hurt my feelings and my pride. I did not know how to love such an enemy, though I had been taught that I should. This is how most of us met our first enemies, right? We would go to school each fall hoping to meet and make new friends and reunite with old ones. Very few of us were warned that we would meet enemies, but we did. Inevitably, we all encountered other children whom we didn't like or who didn't like us. Sometimes dislike would grow into something worse, more sinister. Without supervision, without capable moral guidance from adults, children can be savage to one another. By the time we reach adulthood, many of us have encountered real enemies. People who don't just dislike us, but who make an actual effort to cause us harm. In college, I remember being the subject of unkind rumor mongering, the butt of a cruel practical joke, and the victim of some petty theft. I always took it very hard, these betrayals. I couldn't understand why anyone would treat me so badly. I wanted to be friends with everyone. According to the tradition of Islam, Allah's apostle said, "Beware of suspicion, and do not look for others' faults, and do not spy on one another, and do not be jealous, and do not hate or desert one another, and be not enemies, but help one another." How were you taught to handle the enemies of your youth? My parents told me to ignore them, and they would get tired of mocking me, and, well, that only worked some of the time. I sometimes confronted people, but while that might change practices, it rarely changed my enemies into friends. In counseling, I learned that I could not change anyone but myself and must therefore focus on my own thoughts and feelings and let go of the desire to change others. There is much wisdom in that, to be sure. In the Christian New Testament, Rabbi Jesus is reported to have said, "But I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you." There are different kinds of personal enemies. There are strangers we encounter randomly who are just looking out for their own interests or having a really bad day or perhaps under the influence of some substance. And we just got in their way. A friend once pulled up to a gas pump and got out to discover a woman waiting who thought it was her turn next. And even though the next pump opened immediately, she let loose a tirade of loud, insulting language, the likes of which he had rarely heard outside an R-rated movie. It was so disturbing that after pumping only a couple of gallons, he got in his car and drove away. Some enemies are best loved from a great, safe distance. There are people whom we see as friends until something happens which brings pressure to bear, and the friend turns on us without warning. There are friends who desert us when circumstances become hard, and they are not able or willing to support us during our difficult times. There are the colleagues at work who seem friendly enough, but then turn against us, perhaps even work intentionally to cause us damage out of jealousy or in response to a perceived injury. They use the excuse of competition or trying to get ahead in the workplace as a way to normalize or justify such behavior. The worst personal enemy in my experience is the one who causes harm to someone I love. there is a powerful mama bear in me which comes roaring out in the event of a perceived threat to my children, close family, or friends. The instinct to fight that enemy is so strong then, even though I fancy myself a peaceful, even-tempered person. The Tao Te Ching says, in the words of the sage, I treat those who are good with goodness, and I also treat those who are not good with goodness. Thus, goodness is attained. Do we have group or tribal enemies? I guess Unitarians and Universalists have both been swimming upstream religiously and socially through most of our history. Our forebears were the outsiders, the radicals, the upstarts, the heretics. They were the disseminators of ideas deemed dangerous because they threatened the status quo, the current power structures, the norms of society at the time. When the powerful institutions of church and government endeavored to say with absolute authority what people must think and believe, our spiritual ancestors were among the loudest dissenters and challengers. We have a history of being perceived as the enemies of the larger society, the majority tribe, if you will, because we have always encouraged folk to think for themselves and to question authority. Modern opposition to free thought and free faith leaves us confused, doesn't it? And a bit hurt and rather indignant in turns. We have more than enough evidence to make our case for our positions on such freedoms and on the practices of equity and justice. Why should we be on the receiving end of so much anger and even hatred? How did we become their enemy? How did we come to feel so often surrounded by enemies? The Baha'i faith teaches, let them be kindly fathers to the children of the human race, and compassionate brothers to the youth, and self-denying offspring to those bent with years. The meaning of this is that you must show forth tenderness and love to every human being, even to your enemies, and welcome them all with unalloyed friendship, good cheer, and loving kindness. We are living in a season of great enmity in our nation between opposing political factions. At every level, even down to individual households, we are living in suspicion of one another and filled with such rage toward certain public figures over words and deeds which leave us dismayed, incredulous, even terrified. We observe with grief and horror the events of international conflicts, and especially the suffering of the weakest and most vulnerable people caught in the midst of violence. We feel surrounded by enemies, and living in such a state is taking its toll on our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-beings. How do we follow our call as Unitarian Universalists to work for justice and against institutions and laws which perpetuate injustice, without succumbing to the temptation to see all with opposing viewpoints as our enemies and treating them as such? The great spiritual teacher Zoroaster is reported to have said, "Strive for the good and fight against the evil, but without losing equanimity of the mind and without any malice towards the evildoer." I asked a mentor when I was in my 20s, how exactly does one learn to love enemies? He gave me this advice: learn to see where your enemy hurts. Then you will be able to have compassion on them. It takes some work to see this, and even more to live out of it. It is easier to see the opponent, your enemy, as a bad person, as two-dimensional, It's easier just to rage against them and their behavior than to look for their pain. We'd really rather cling to our rage and hatred sometimes, to lash out like I did to the high school bully, than to stop and try to see their hurt, their fear. Often, enemies don't want to let you see such things, and you will probably not be rewarded for such efforts. Hence the phrase, no good deed goes unpunished. But the internal benefit is enormous. Hatred eats away at the mind and the spirit and has a damaging effect on the body as well. Nursing grudges and clinging to anger in the end will hurt us far more than our enemies. Letting go of hatred and living out of compassion is much better for us and for the world. It's just not easy. Buddhism teaches that hatred does not cease through hatred at any time. Hatred ceases through love. This is an unalterable law. Now, some enemies are best loved from a great distance. I am not encouraging anyone to place or keep themselves in a situation where they may come to harm or to submit themselves to exploitation or humiliation. Please seek safety. Ask for help if you need it. Call me if you need to. As individuals and as Unitarian Universalists, we are living in a trying season, which feels much like a kind of war. We must find ways to shield ourselves from the messages of hatred while we figure out the most effective means of acting as instruments of justice and of peace. How do we accomplish both? We continue to put our energy into the work of justice, and we look courageously at these seeming enemies for their pain and their fear. We do both. We try daily to live out of compassion even as we rage for order in the world. It is not an easy path, but we will last longer and accomplish more if we learn to live out of love rather than out of hatred. I close with the wisdom of the Buddha. Radiate boundless love towards the entire world, above, below, and across, unhindered, without ill will, without enmity. Teach this triple truth to all: a generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which renew humanity. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to take your hymnal and turn to 315. 315, This Old World. Let's sing all verses. As you are able, I invite you to stand. This old world is full of sorrow, full of sickness, weak and soul. If you love your neighbor truly, love will
Visitors, friends, and members, please fill out your connection card. Give it to the usher on your way out. Be sure to look at the bottom. There are many opportunities to connect outside of this service, Sunday mornings. Election Day is this Tuesday, and our church is an official polling place. We're required to have a church volunteer for each hour that the polls are open. Please sign up online or scan the QR code that's on your connection card, or you can sign up in the list in the narthex, on the list in the narthex. We also need snacks, donations for the poll workers that can be dropped off Tuesday morning. Thank you. The Environmental Justice Task Force will be hosting a home emergency restoration workshop here at the church on Saturday, September 6th from 9 to 11. This is a free workshop. It's open to the public. The workshop will be led by Stephen Gusum of We Rise, weatherize every residence in the Southeast. It's a project of the People's Justice Council, which is part of Alabama Interfaith Power and Light. The goal of the workshop is to teach people what they can do to reduce their energy costs and reduce their carbon footprint. And one final announcement, after the service today, or after your, whatever you might participate in after the service, after everything's over, we're going to a bunch of us are going to the Great Wall, so please feel free to join us. We don't have any special announcements, so I'll skip that part. Okay, in honor of the legacy of our ancestors, let us carry this flame forward as we extinguish the chalice. This is by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. There is some good in the worst of us, and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. Let's carry this light with us in defiance of the temptation to hate and with confidence in the power of love to transform and heal our world, beginning with ourselves.